Hello and welcome to the masterclass from daddy issues to a worthy queen. So happy to be here. If you don't know me at this point, my name is Ivana Vuletic and I am a trauma informed self worth coach. And my specialty lies in helping powerful, hardworking, successful women heal emotionally and reclaim their worth so they can truly step into their power. And so the reason behind this masterclass is because most hardworking, perfectionist, successful women who are living a super busy life tend to have the father wound, tend to have the daddy issues, so to speak. And these daddy issues show up in our lives in many different ways. So, with this masterclass, my goal is to help you understand the way that these issues are presenting themselves in your life, what it looks like, what the symptoms are, the problems that it causes, what it looks like. We're also going to cover three different father archetypes to help you understand the type of father you've had, which you most likely know, but it's a different thing when we read it and we see it, and you may feel like you relate to several one of them. Okay. And you may have grown up with a father, I was going to say a parent, a father who was physically present but not there emotionally and mentally. You could have grown up with a father that was gone all the time. Your father may have passed. Maybe you grew up in a household or in two different households where you had a stepfather and a father, a biological dad. So there are a lot of different combinations, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that this wound is, so to speak, a trauma symptom inside of you. And because of it, you are not living your life to the fullest and you don't feel as the worthy queen that you are. Okay. So let's begin with my definition of daddy issues, which is simply the wide range of symptoms, the problems, the fears, and the insecurities you have as a result of developing the father wound. And when you have the father wound, you have a very kind of rigid approach to life. And when we are like kind of hardcore, determined thinkers, it that is a masculine way of approaching life, approaching things. So in this case, you are operating from wounded masculinity. And of course, if you also have the mother wound, which we're not talking about in this class specifically, but I have a different class about that, then you have a combination about of the two. Okay. So if you're like, how do I know if I have father issues, if I have daddy issues? Well, you look at the symptoms, your problems, your fears, and the insecurities. And we're going to look at how we know and how they're reflected in your life through the different areas in your life. Okay. So let's begin with the symptoms. We already mentioned this, but if you have daddy issues, you're most likely a perfectionist or somewhat of a recovering perfectionist. The worst thing about this is that we can never get anything perfect, so we're constantly hard on ourselves. Because you're such a perfectionist, you're constantly working, 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 working. So in your career, your business, but also like at home, you're a chronic doer. You always have to do something. You can't just kind of just be in your own space and relax and feel like rest is productive. You physically constantly have to do something. And so when you have to do something in your home too, a lot of women with daddy issues have like OCD, and they always have to feel like they have some type of control over things. Items cannot be misplaced. And when you think about the women who are extremely nagging in romantic relationships, it is usually where, because of course, there are a lot of men who are not doing what they're supposed to do. But many times, because of the daddy issues, we have this need for things to be perfect and in their place. And so we develop somewhat of parent-child relationship with your partner, my partner, whoever partner it is, because you're taking on that parental role. Why you're not picking up after yourself? Why you're not doing this? Why are you not doing that? And so, of course, again, could be the other person, but where is this coming from? It's often a trauma response of what you need so you can feel relaxed and good about yourself, because when things are misplaced, you don't feel in control. And so, why is this thing with control a big deal? Well, control is a big deal because when you grew up and developed the father wound, there was not much that you could control other than what you believed your father would value, whether he was present in your life or not. Again, whether your dad was in the home, whether he was out and working all the time, whether he passed away, whether you had a combination, whether you grew up in a foster home, it doesn't matter. The wound is the wound, right? So, what you thought your dad would appreciate, you would do that. And for most of us, it's what being a hard worker, getting things done, being a bit ambitious. So the need to control and achieve is coming from this subconscious desire of wanting to do something that we first of all think would make our dad proud, and maybe it did if your dad was present, so you know this is how you get his love. But also, I could not control. I could not control my home environment. And if your dad was abusive as well, well, you couldn't control that, but you can control things around you. You can control your surrounding today. Okay. And to obviously, to some extent, it's amazing to be clean and to make sure you want things to be in their order. But when this takes over your mental health, this is how we know it's a serious symptom of the father wound. Okay. All right. So we covered that. And that goes hand in hand with being hyper independent. All right. So if you are a perfectionist, if you are a chronic doer and you have these things going on, you can't really trust anybody but yourself. So again, you're not trusting of others to get things done. So you need to do them on your own. You don't want anybody to help you because you don't know what that's going to turn into, what it's going to look like. And so you're mostly going to also be a micromanager, but also because you don't want to look, for example, weak. If you don't associate your father's love with with receiving something, then you're not going to be receptive. And so you don't know how that's going to turn out. If you don't know how someone else's help will turn out, that means you are letting go of control, and control is the very thing you're trying to cling on to. It's not real control, but it's your perceived control. Okay. Because you're hyper independent, because you're not wanting to receive help from other people, you also have super firm boundaries. Now, don't get me wrong, these are not super firm boundaries in all areas of your life, especially not in romantic relationships, but there are firm boundaries when it comes to the workplace or your business and your circle. And you can have super firm boundaries with so called friends because you don't really have any super deep connections with friends. If these were friends who knew everything about you, where these connections were super deep, then you would not be able to have these firm boundaries. But you have managed with your need for control, with your independence, to create something that works for you. But the hard thing becomes when you are in a romantic relationship, whether you're dating or you are with someone, like in a committed relationship or marriage, because this is the most intimate relationship that you have. So you cannot have the same level or the same rigid boundaries that you have in these other areas of your life, because this person is seeing you and being with you on a deeper level. And this person is exposing your wounds in a way that, maybe work or your friends aren't, even though it's exposed there as well, but it's just not as deep. And this person will really, because oftentimes what we don't realize when we have the father wound, even though we're kind of we're trying to run from our father in a sense, like if it wasn't good in the past, we want to make sure we don't pick a partner who's like our dad was, but subconsciously it happens. It happens because we have the innate, our child, inner child has the innate desire to heal that relationship with our father. And she does so by continuing a pattern of attracting people that are similar in nature to our father, but that's masked in a different way because our conscious mind is not looking for that. So we will look at someone and look at their personality and say, well, they're not like my dad. All right. But deep inside, they are. They may act a different way, they may speak a different way, they may present themselves differently, but deep inside they're emotionally unavailable. Deep inside there's someone who's going to run when things get hard, and so on and so forth. Deep inside there are someone who is going to abandon. Deep inside there's someone who isn't trustworthy. Okay, so we draw these things to us because we really desire to heal this wound. It gets really deep. So because we want to heal this initial this primary relationship, we tend to overextend ourselves. Also here, yeah, overdo, overgive. We're not receiving, but we are giving, 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 giving. And we're not valuing ourselves in relationships, especially in romantic relationships, marriage. Okay, and this is the same thing when it comes to dating. Okay. Even if we think we have high standards because we have low self worth and because our daddy issues are ruling our lives, we allow people to talk us into situations, situationships, arrangements, relationships that aren't healthy for us. So you look tough on the outside, like you have this tough shell, but deep inside, you're really hurt and you're longing for love. So when you get that attention, when someone charms you, when someone promises you something, when someone shows interest in you, you're like, finally, I get the attention, I get the validation, I get the love. And now I'm going to do everything in my power to keep it. It doesn't happen because we're going after the wrong partners. We're dating the wrong people. Okay. And then the wound gets reflected to you, and your perceived reality or your current reality is shown to you. Well, they don't love me. No one loves me. My dad never loved me. My dad never invested fully in me. And neither are these men or women, it doesn't matter. And I can see it clearly. And that must mean I'm not good enough. That must mean I'm not good enough. Okay. So again, we're picking partners with the unconscious desire of healing our father wound. But again, because we cannot heal our father wound through someone else, especially not by picking someone who was like our dad. All right. So you pick the wrong person and you cannot heal it. And then again, you're left with that belief. So that's what happens. And this goes really deep, right? So I need to touch on that a little more. Then you also have the need to compete. Okay. So you see other women as a threat. You were most likely compared as a child, whether that was compared with other girls or compared to your brother, for example. And so that way you want to show off like your muscles and need to be tough, you need to compete, you feel the need to put other people down. Some people don't do it consciously, right? But you don't ever want to feel inferior. Okay. And so, because of all of this that we just discussed, you're going to have mental health issues. All right. So, you're most likely going to struggle with anxiety and stress, lots of stress. You are operating from fight or flight, which is what happens when your sympathetic autonomic nervous system gets activated. And that part of your nervous system is activated when you live in stress, when you do too much, when you don't know how to rest, when you think you have to do everything on your own, when you can't sit still. Okay. And so when we're operating from stress, being in fight or flight, when the sympathetic nervous system is activated, lots of adrenaline and other stress hormones are pumping into our blood, which then goes into our organs, our ligaments, our body parts. Everything in our body gets consumed by this. So when you operate from fight or flight, the proper energy and the blood flow that you need, like in your intestines and in your stomach area, so to speak, to make it simple, it doesn't go there because it's going where? To your arms and your legs for survival, like you're ready to fight or flight, right? And because of this, you get sick. So a lot of women with daddy issues will have thyroid issues. They will have stomach problems. They will have pain in their bones. They will also have issues in their lady area, lots of issues there, because that's really where energy needs to flow for us, and that's our safety center, like our root center, our lady landscape down there, our pelvic area. Okay, so if you have daddy issues, you're most likely going to have some type of mental health issue, and you're also going to have a physical health issue, whether you have it now or if you had it in the past. Okay. And so now we want to look at the problems, the and we have already discussed it a little bit when it comes to dating and relationships and friendships, when it comes to boundaries and things like that. But the problems that occur in life when you have daddy issues. So not only do these daddy issues lead to super firm or poor boundaries. But for example, when you don't have the proper boundaries in a relationship or a marriage because you are wanting that love and validation, and when you allow people to talk you into things where you put your guard down when you shouldn't, what can happen then is it can lead to an abusive relationship, a toxic relationship. And that toxic relationship can ruin your life. Okay. So the person that we choose to marry is the biggest decision that we can make. And when you pick the wrong person, it can destroy the career that you built or the business that you built, which is where you kind of utilize your daddy issues in a positive way, right? You use to work your way up or to expand your business. But when you pick the wrong person because of your daddy issues, and not because you picked the right person, like based on what you actually deserve and your desire, not only can your career get destroyed, but also your health. You can disconnect from family and friends, miss out on opportunities, and again, that will reaffirm the belief that you are unworthy. All right. So when you're dating, you're picking emotionally unavailable potential partners, right? You're doing all the investing because you're wanting to prove yourself. You're going to compete with other women. If they go with someone else, you're going to make it a reflection of your worth and not just a sign that they picked someone else based on their own preference. And the crazy thing too is that when they do pick someone else, they don't pick someone else because they saw the real you. They pick someone else compared to your wounded masculinity because you're operating with wounded masculinity. But even if you operated strictly from your soul, who you really are below or beneath the trauma, they can still pick someone else, but it doesn't mean anything about you. But this is what happens with the daddy issues. You drain your resources, your time, and then you feel a lack of self worth. Okay. And again, this is the most important decision that you make. And so in friendships, what happens is that you don't really know who you have in your life because you are afraid of getting close to people. You don't really trust people. So even when the ones that you do pick or when you do put your guard down, it could be people that wants you to be unhappy and they're jealous of you, not only your accomplishments, but also you as a person. And so you can only imagine when you have the wrong people in your life, like manipulators, people who use you, narcissists, psychopaths, it can lead to endless problems. And I'm sure you can look back on some friendships like this, or you may possibly have a toxic friendship situation that you're resolving right now. So, as you can tell, operating from your father wound, when this wound is guiding the way, when your issues as a result of your father wound, your daddy issues are controlling you, it literally can ruin your whole life. So, yes, in one sense, you can use it to become super productive and successful externally, right? You can become a super successful businesswoman, career woman, whatever. But it comes at the expense of something else, like your relationships or your health. The beautiful thing is, when you do heal, you can still have a successful career, a successful business. You can still have your health and your relationships. You don't have to sacrifice one thing for another, but that is what you do with this wound. Okay. So, again, not only do you have issues then in your relationships, dating, friendships, but also in your career, you could be too competitive. For example, if you are in an industry, in a field that thrives on collaboration, where you actually need to work in teams and you need to find solutions together. When you don't trust, when you don't even have feel the that you have the capability of trusting, you're going to try to do everything on your own, and there's so much more that you could accomplish if you were willing to work with other people. So then you can lose out on opportunities and so on, and also really good work relationships that could also possibly turn into friendships later on. So you kind of become, you stay in your own shell, and it can cause you problems. So even though you come really far in your career, you could have come even further if you were willing and open to collaborate. And the same thing goes for your business. Are you willing to collaborate with other entrepreneurs? Are you willing to allow people to help you with ideas and so on and so forth? It's the same thing. It doesn't matter if you have a 9 to 5 or if you run your own business. All right. And then we have your health. When you don't rest or take the time to process your emotions, you operate from a dysregulated nervous system, fight or flight, which we've talked about. And we've also talked about what that does to your body. It will mess up your immune system and eventually make you sick. A lot of women who want to transform their bodies, whether they feel like they want to lose weight or they want to gain weight, and they're doing all the right things. Okay. They're being healthy in society's eyes. They're like waking up early, they are exercising, they're eating the right food, they're making sure they get their water in, they're doing all the things, but they're not achieving their weight loss or weight gain goal. It is because they have way too much stress hormones in their system. When your body is in stress, it cannot do what it's supposed to do. It cannot build muscle the way it would if it was healthily regulated, and it cannot break down the fat like it's supposed or like you want it to do, because again, it's helping you survive. Fight or flight is being in survival. Like when you are stressing, when you are in this state, your body thinks it's surviving for you. And we're not meant to be in that state for too long. So sometimes going to exercise, for example, can do more damage and harm to you than it would be to rest. Because if you were to rest, you could reset your nervous system and now it's properly functioning. So then, for example, tomorrow you could go with a regulated nervous system to the gym. But if you force yourself because you have to, right? You have to do it. You have to work. You have to exercise. You have to do all these things with a dysregulated nervous system. Even though the dopamine feels good, the endorphins that you release, you will not achieve what you want to achieve. Okay. That's something that you may not have known. All right. So now you know a little bit about the problems that it causes, the symptoms. Now I want you to pay attention to these father archetypes that I've created for you because I love archetypes. Shout out to Carl Jung. And I want you to think about which one you resonate with, if your dad was one of them or all of them or whatever. And that will kind of help put things into perspective a little more when you are operating in your everyday life, when you're living your everyday life. All right. So we have the threatening father as number one. The threatening father was the father you grew up with that you were scared of, the scary dad, the one who threatened you, the one who punished you, the one who abused you. That's it. Okay. And if this was your father, you're gonna have a subconscious fear of punishment, a subconscious fear of punishment. So even though you're like tough girl, tough woman today, your wounded inner child is afraid of punishment. Okay. This is why shadow work is so crucial. This is why we talk about this a lot in my membership, Worthy, because you can only see what you can see. Like your subconscious rules majority of your life. But you think because you see and pay attention to some things that you're the one in control. No, your subconscious is. Okay. This is why we're doing this work of healing. So you can rewire this, reparent yourself, and release these fears, release these emotions, heal yourself, reclaim your worth. All right. So when you have this subconscious fear of punishment, you will be over explaining yourself. How does this look? Your partner, for example, or your future partner could ask you a question. And they ask you a simple question like, where were you last night? And you freak out because your head goes, they're suspicious of something, they're thinking something. I need to make sure this is your inner child doing this. Okay, this is your trauma response, your daddy issues. They think this, and also this is a means to protect you. So this is not necessarily a bad thing. This is how you would survive in the past when you were a child, by making sure you said all the right things to your dad. And then you would say, instead of just saying, I was, for example, with Emily yesterday, we had a great time, whatever you want to say, you'll be like, "Uh, but I was with her, and I promise we didn't do anything, and I tried to text you, but I couldn't text you, and I know what you're thinking, but and then you would go into like a wounded little girl talking to her master in a sense. Like in that moment, that would be your dad. Your partner would be the representation of your dad. And you would give so many unnecessary details because your first thought would be they're suspicious of something. And even though, a woman, a worthy queen would not do that. She would be in her authentic power and she would tell the truth and be open, obviously, to questions. This might not be the best example, but it is an example, right? You're asked a question. How do you feel about this? Well, I feel this way, but you know why I feel this way? It's because this, and that. How do you feel? I want to, blah, 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 blah. Okay. This fear, not only of punishment, but the person may get being disappointed in you or not wanting to spend time with you. So this fear is wanting to keep some type of attachment, keep that bond. Okay. So that's the threatening father. Was this your father? Then we have the absent father archetype. The absent father archetype is the avoidant father. So if he was at home, he was not present with you. If he was at home a lot, he was not present with you. If he worked a lot, he was not present with you when he got home. The absent father could also be the dad that abandoned you. Okay. So he was not there when you grew up. Okay. And it could also be the father you had that passed away at any given point. Okay. And so if this was the father that you had, then the father archetype for that would be the absent father that leads to overdoing. Okay. So this is where you feel the need to compensate. You lost out. Okay. So the potential partners or your partner that you have in your life, for example, a lot of our life is is about relationships. This is why I use this so much. So you're dating someone, and they may become your potential partner. You have a partner, and so this is the person closest to you, and you really have a strong connection with this person. You are going to want to make sure this person doesn't leave you. Okay? You're going to want to make sure that this person doesn't leave you, even if you have an avoidance attachment style. Okay? Because majority of people, like with this father archetype, you could have an anxious attachment style, a disorganized, or an avoidant. But with these other two, it's more likely that you have the avoidance attachment style. Anyway, going back to that, if this is your father archetype and you have the avoidance attachment style, then you are still going to overdo. Okay. You're not going to be a people pleaser in a sense that, uh, as you would be maybe with the mother wound, but you may pay for everything. For example, you're going to compete with people in his or her life to show, right, that you're doing all these things. Okay. So if you do enough for this person, however way you feel like you can show it without being too vulnerable, maybe they won't avoid you, maybe they won't abandon you. And that goes back to what I mentioned before. You give way more than you take in relationships. You give way more than you take in relationships. Okay. And then we have the third archetype, which is the confused father. This is the dad that never really got his life together, right? Maybe uh, he was comfortable with your mom doing everything. Maybe he was extremely feminine, just kind of like going with the flow, super receptive, but from a wounded place, more wounded femininity. Couldn't really guide you and support you and protect you the way you needed him to. It's kind of like, in its own world, not there for you, like in a physical sense, but also not emotionally. And so when you're dating or in relationships or at work with friends, it doesn't matter. Okay. You feel the need to be the one who carries the load all the time, to fix things, to help people. And this is the person, you, who sees people as a project, right? So we know about the women, and you may be one of them. I've been one of them, who see men as a project to fix, to work on, to help, to create, to, yeah. Because your dad never got it together. And again, you didn't get the love that you desired and deserved from your dad. Now you're putting your efforts into this person instead. Okay. And you're also doing it with friends. And a lot of people take advantage of you. But this is the subconscious fear, again, of not feeling or not wanting to feel like you don't provide enough, that you're not effective enough. Okay. And so you are the helper. You're the helper here. Mm. So again, if you have had more than one father figure in your life, it could be that, you had one father was the threatening father, the other one was the confused father. Or maybe you've had stepfathers throughout your life, or maybe you were in foster homes, had different father figures. So you could have gone through all of these. You could have also had one father who was the embodiment of all of these. Okay, so he was absent, but when he was there, he threatened you. He was absent, but just because he was absent doesn't mean that he did anything effective or productive. So he was also confused. Okay. And if you grew up without a father, didn't really have a father figure, you have created over the years something in your head. You've also turned, like, even if you didn't have an assigned father figure, you turned to, for example, men who could be your mentors, or you dated men that were much older. um, you clicked better with males. Like, oh, I can't tell you how many women with daddy issues will say, and proudly, I don't get along with women. Women are too much drama. I only want guy friends. And if you do this, it's not a judgment. I used to feel the same, okay? A lot of the stuff that I talk about is not only research, but it's also my own experiences. It's also all the clients that I worked with was in the last 6, 7 years. So there's a lot of data, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of living too, right? But the women who talk like that, the women who compete with other women, the women that don't want other women in their circle, that's because of that. It's because of that. And it's actually an underlying fear of not being good enough. Because if you feel good about yourself, you're going to want to collaborate with other women, uplift other women, empower other women. Okay. So the amazing thing about healing is when you do that work, you're going to feel like a sisterhood bond with new women in your life, or the ones that you already have, and such an incredible feeling. Okay? Now, let's talk about some fears when it comes to daddy issues. And these fears are really rooted in these beliefs that love will leave, love hurts, love is hard, and love means proving yourself. Those are the main ones. We have more, but those are the main ones. Again, if you grew up with the absent father archetype, love will leave. But also, love hurts because he's not there. If you grew up with the threatening father, for example, it's also love hurts. Love is hard because you don't know what to do to gain his approval, his love. Also, love means proving yourself because you don't really know what to do. Is he gonna, right? So, all these beliefs and fears, right? Because it's a fear to be open to love, because the potential of getting hurt and it not being reciprocated is super scary, right? And if you grew up with a confused father, it's also, love is hard, because if he's confused and he can't really be the father figure that you need, how are you going to know what to do or how to be? So it's hard and hurts, and it means proving yourself, right? So these are some beliefs that need to be rewritten, reprogrammed, for you to be able to be joyful in life, for you to be able to have peace, for you to be able to open up your heart. And you're going to also be much healthier, not just because you have better quality relationships, but your health, your mental and your physical health is also going to be much better when you stop carrying these beliefs, because they're no longer going to be fears. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some insecurities with daddy issues. Women with daddy issues usually look very attractive. And that's my own personal opinion and observation, because the focus is work, status, looks. Okay. So I have to make up for my insecurities. I have to make up for my low self esteem. I have to make up for my lack of worthiness by doing extra. Okay. By looking extra good. It's nothing bad with that. The problem is where it's rooted in. So you can be the most good looking woman on the planet, but I want you to feel that way as well. So it's just a reflection of that. Okay. Another insecurity is that you're not smart enough, especially if you were compared to a lot as a child, or if your grades weren't to the standard that your dad wanted them to be, demanded, whatever. Again, so that's also going to lead to you might feel like you're not established enough. Your dad could have been extremely hard on you. Okay. And really demanded a lot of you. So no matter how much you achieve, you never feel like it's enough. And it's also always going to be, we've talked about competition and comparison. So it's always going to be that she's better than me. Even if you feel like someone is inferior to you, you're always going to find someone to make you feel less than, because the world is a reflection of you. Your relationships and your interactions are mirrors of you. So the reality is going to be she is better than me. And that is always going to be an insecurity that you're going to carry with you. And because of this insecurity, you're going to call to you and choose situations that are not healthy for you and to you. Okay. And all of this is rooted in I am not good enough. I am not good enough. Not this is not a good fit. This is just a preference thing. This is just a gap in skill or talent. This is just a tough time in my life. But everything that you're insecure about is rooted in I'm not good enough. Because otherwise, it wouldn't really be an insecurity. It would be something that you're simply working on, but it's not controlling your life. Okay. So you can lack skills and still choose to educate yourself or work on something without believing that you're not smart enough and feeling disgusting and hurt on the inside because you're not somewhere else. Okay, so that's the difference. Also, I've seen and listened to a lot of talks around victim blaming and shaming. If you've been in my world until this point, however long, you know that I don't believe too much in the word victim. Not because we haven't been through things, not because there are things that have been done to you that are inexcusable, horrible, and that people deserve to be held accountable for, and that you deserve to grieve and be angry about it all. It has nothing to do with that. It's just simply the mind frame that can put you in when you see yourself as a victim. Okay. If there was such thing that you could feel or see yourself as a victim for a short period of time and then shift that, that would be one thing. But what happens with people who live with the victim view, so to speak, that feel like victims, they get stuck in that, and everybody else is always responsible for their problems. Everything that's been done to them. So, for example, a person who sees themselves as a victim rather than some like a queen that we're talking about here, that person might never do this work. Okay. That person may continue to choose unhealthy relationships because, again, they didn't abuse themselves. It's not their fault that they were abused. And it wasn't their fault, isn't their fault. It's not your fault either. Okay. Like it's inexcusable. But what is your responsibility now is healing, to ask yourself, to learn about yourself, to see a pattern, which is what we're getting to now for your pattern. What is your pattern? Why do you choose the people you choose? Why do you do the things that you do? Why do you operate the way you operate? Why do you overextend yourself? Why do you over explain yourself? Why do you accept certain things? Like these things are on you. It's not on you what someone does to you, but why do you choose situations, toxicity many times? Of course, you didn't see it before, but what did you learn from those things? What did you learn from those things and those people and those experiences that you can apply now so that now you can see them? This is what we want to look at. This is how we heal. So you don't have to be a victim. You could be a person who's gone through something horrific, but you're a freaking worthy queen. You're an amazing human being. So this is going to be a preference thing, whatever you resonate with. I don't personally resonate with that, and my clients don't either. But if you feel like it helps you more to call yourself a victim in your healing journey, then there's no shame. There's nothing wrong with that. And I want you to continue to do that. Just wanted to provide my perspective and why I see it the way I see it. I'm also a firm believer in the spoken word, how we speak about things, and also the collective. So, how is the collective speaking about victims? Okay. It's not about not getting what you need. It's not about not being able um to sue someone or to get rewarded or for people not to be punished. None of that. Like, there are consequences. I'm talking about simply, how do you feel with the word I am a victim versus I am someone who thrives, someone who overcomes, I am queen. Okay. So I want you to pay attention to that. So, to also heal what you want to do, which is kind of what I've already touched on, but everything that we discussed so far, the symptoms, the problems, these archetypes, everything that we've talked about, how have those things been living through you as you? Okay, as this wounded masculine shell, as like this has been your personality, your experience, s your experiences, your childhood with your dad, whether present or not, don't have to say it again, I hope, had all that led to you being a specific person. Okay, so what you want to be able to look at when you're healing is, how much of this is really me versus how much is this a survival mechanism? How much is this just a symptom of what I've been through? Okay. And that is going to help you a lot. That requires self awareness and reflection, which are two major things that I preach. Okay. And then what you want to do is you want to begin challenging the way you are acting and being in the world. So if you would normally act the way as a result of your daddy issues, you want to challenge that. If you normally have a specific attitude, a way of being as a result of your father wound, you want to challenge that. Okay. And then you also want to set boundaries with yourself, with your father, if he's here or not, and other people. And in the situation where your dad is not physically present or he's passed away, the boundaries would be in forms of meditation, in forms of self-talk. All right. And if he's physically here, it would shift. The boundaries would be placed in communication or a limitation of communication and the way that you speak with him and how you show up as you when you're around him. All right. And that takes me to this question: who is it when you're speaking to your dad? Is it your wounded inner child or is it your authentic self? And I did a whole training on this in the Worthy membership. So when you're speaking to your father or thinking about speaking to him in your head, even if it isn't in real life, who is it? Like, this is a shadow prompt, shadow work in a sense, because you really have to dig deep and look at a reality that you most likely wouldn't look at otherwise. Because again, our survival mechanism to be the way we are, our trauma has led us to have a specific type of personality, but that is rooted in our wounds. And so, letting that guard down and asking yourself a difficult question like this requires you to dig deep. And when we dig deep, is when it begins to hurt more, because now we're not working or distracting ourselves, which daddy issues is when it makes you do that. Okay. And this is why this work can be so painful for us with the father wound, because this requires us to slow down, to really look deep inside of us and to be honest with ourselves, which with daddy issues can be really difficult as well too. Because being honest with ourselves could again lead to this potential repressed pain to pop up. It's just going to do that, but it's required for healing so many times. And this is also going to help you communicate more effectively when you're dating, with your friends, colleagues, with your boss, with your clients, people that you meet, with your partner or your spouse. Because remember what I said about the father archetypes, they are reflected. They are reflected through your other relationships. So if you can really hone like hone this in, like, and really look at it and be honest with yourself and start shifting it by doing the things that we previously discussed, right? This is how you're doing the healing. Then you're going to begin shifting the way you speak with your father as a result of you also shifting the way you see yourself. And so if this relationship with your father is getting healed, then you're not going to look for the validation or the approval from others, which then is going to help fix those other relationships. Because you can only heal your father wound through you, possibly with your father there, if that is even a possibility. If your father is at that level where you can set standards and y'all can still get somewhere. But in many times, you can't physically deal with your father like that, but you can do it with yourself. You can do it by imagining it. And I have several meditations for that as well, where I can guide you through it. It's really, really powerful. Okay. How we speak is how we live. Also, how we speak is how we feel. How we feel is how we think. How we think is how we feel. And you have to know if it's you as the worthy queen that you are, is she speaking to your dad, your true authentic self, or is it your wounded inner child? 99.9% is the wounded inner child. And then no wonder you can't have any stable and healthy and expansive relationships, because you can want whatever you want, but you're not even getting the bare minimum because you don't believe you're worth it, because your inner child is controlling your life. Okay. So these are some questions that I want you to ponder on. Okay. And you can take a screenshot here. So, who is your worthy queen? Who is your authentic self? Who is she deep inside? How would she speak? What would she believe? What would she think? How would she behave? And who would she trust? Okay. So this is a shift in identity, because before you were operating as the wounded little girl inside of you, right? You are in a child, and we want to shift that for you to operate as your authentic self, aka the worthy queen that you are. And there has to be a shift in identity. And that shift in identity, you can get a spark, like something can happen inside of you after this masterclass where you kickstart it somehow, right? You kickstart this work. But again, this is a process as well. So you have to practice it into being. You have to embody this new identity. Okay. And this is why it's so crucial that we do this work. So I want to give you an exercise to complete as soon as we finish here, or when you have the time later today, whenever this week. And that is, again, because I said you have to shift, you have to upgrade, you have to transform your identity. You want to get clear on who your authentic self, your worthy queen, who is that worthy queen? Who is she? And what is she about? Okay. What does she desire? What are her elevated standards? Define yourself as a worthy queen. You have to get clear on who the freak you are, and stop allowing your daddy issues to tell you. Stop allowing people who you've dated to tell you. Stop allowing broken, wounded, toxic people, friends tell you. You have to define yourself. And I want you to describe her up leveled life. Like, how is your life going to be when you're living as her? And I want you to be bold, and I don't want you to hold anything back. Nothing. Okay. So, this is going to be your homework, so to speak. And for this identity shift to happen, you really have to do this. Okay. And because you're productive, you're successful, you're already a woman who's, a chronic doer, this should not be a problem, because you get things done. All right. But if your mother wound is kind of strong too, it could try to take you over. So, like, make sure you do this. I want to give you an example so you kind of get the feel for it and just put something together. And I want you to feel into your body how it feels to hear this. And at the same time, kind of imagine what you yourself would write. Okay. Because when you're clear on this, when you go into work or when you start your day with your business or when you get on a dating app or when you go out on a date or when you speak to your husband, when you speak to your wife, when you talk to a client, when you talk to a colleague, when you talk to your dad, when you talk to your mom, or when you're in your head, like you're going to start realizing and remembering that you are upgrading, like you are shifting your identity. You are a worthy queen. You are not the wounded girl anymore. And so that will slowly but surely, with consistency, and with you consistently reading this, you consistently taking the action steps we talked about for the healing and being persistent, you're going to start noticing that you're going to change. People are going to notice it, you're going to feel it, and it's going to be pretty evident in your life. Okay? So here's the example. I I, as a worthy queen, have standards that reflect my self worth. I don't make excuses. I don't justify. I don't over explain. I am a woman of my word, and my actions guide me. My trust is earned, and the ones I share my inner world with have earned that privilege. I don't adhere to the norms about how a woman should be or what I should accept. I live my life to the fullest in my authentic expression, and I manifest into my life that which I desire. I go where I'm valued, honored, and loved, and anything less than that bounces off with my impeccable standards. I love luxury, but I also love simplicity. I could get on a private jet tomorrow and enjoy luxurious dinners, but I also enjoy being out in the country with a simple cup of tea. Other people's actions or perceptions of me have nothing to do with me, but this doesn't mean a lack of awareness or reflection. It simply means I know my worth and I don't internalize other people's insecurities and projections. Dot, 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 dot. And it continues on and on. So you're basically writing who you are. You're writing who you are. You're writing what you're available for. You're writing what you desire. You're writing how you want your life to look like. You're writing what you are open to, what you're not open to. Okay. And you're getting crystal clear on that. And once you've decided who you are, you have to begin practicing being heard, being her. Being heard, I'm sure you don't have a problem with that. So you have to practice this for it to uh embody through you, right? To be like to become your reality. And if you heard the exercise, you listen to what I just read and you're like, that's hard because I know what I desire, but I don't feel that way. I don't think I deserve it. And all these things that we've just talked about previously, the symptoms, the problems, um, the manifestations of the father wound is taking over. And you're like, this is too hard. I can't write like that because I don't feel like I'm worthy of it. What you're going to do then is to allow your past experiences to guide you. So you're going to look at what you're wanting to step away from, and you can write it like that. I am no longer available for this. I am no longer accepting this. I am no longer going to overdo this. Okay. And so then with time and consistency, when you feel like you're embodying more of that which you are no longer available for, you can slowly but surely start adding things or write a whole new letter. Okay. So this is how you're going to do it if you feel that way. And then you can also use other people as inspiration to guide you to your truth. When you look at another woman and you're like, I want to have an open heart like her. I've had both clients and people close to me say, I envy and I love people who can say that they're jealous of something. I think this like requires a lot of courage to be so in tune with your emotions and be able to tell someone like, I'm jealous of you, but I'm not, like, not in a bad way, but I'm working my way up myself and I'm going to get there. But you're an inspiration to me. Like, I wish I could have that. And I believe I can have it. I'm working on that. We need more of that in our lives. So I've had people tell me that they're inspired my ability and my willingness to share my heart, to share my truth, to be open and to be vulnerable, right? And so both clients and people close to me have used that as inspiration to become more open. So if you have someone in your life that may not be making as much money as you, but is embodying being, true to her feelings, being, operating from her heart, not being closed off, and the things that you're going to work on now through your healing, then you can use her as an example to add in your in this exercise where you say, my heart is open. I'm open to all the things, blah 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 blah, right? So it doesn't have to be that you feel like this is what you deserve and this is your life right now. This is what you're deciding is going to be your life. This is what you're deciding is going to be your new identity. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. So it's basically going to be, to wrap it up, it's going to be based on the lessons from past experiences plus the practice that you're doing now. And the practice happens through what I said. When you would normally do this, you do something else. Sometimes you may not catch it, but you're building awareness. And you're like, okay, I missed this last time. I'm going to shift it this time, right? So you practice, practice makes progress. Consistency. All right. So you have to consistently practice. You cannot do it one time. You have to consistently do it. And you have to reflect, like, how the heck am I showing up? Am I operating as the worthy queen that I am, or am I operating as a wounded little girl? Okay. And then you make adjustments, and then you go through that circle again, the cycle again. And you do it on repeat, 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 repeat. And then with time and consistency, investing in yourself and doing everything possible in your power to be supported in this journey is going to lead to you feeling like the worthy queen that you actually are. Like, you are her. You may not feel like her right now, but you are. But this would be the process to go from daddy issues to becoming the worthy queen that you are. Okay. So I want to thank you for being here for this masterclass. I truly hope you enjoyed it. I hope you loved it. I hope you have taken notes. If you haven't, go back and watch this masterclass again. I really want to stress the fact that doing the exercise I provided is super crucial. And moving forward, if you want more of this, like if you want to learn how to utilize some of the things that I've talked about in a deeper way, if you want to be supported, if you want to expand your knowledge, if you want more exercises, techniques, strategies, whatever it may be, I had three different options for you to pick between. I have my private support, which I offer 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. And I can also do a specialized package for you. I have my Worthy membership with almost daily support through trainings, strategies, techniques, tips, and different tools to help support you in your journey to heal emotionally and feel like you're that worthy queen. And then I also have evergreen programs that you can purchase, that you can watch on your own. They are automated programs. So that would be my Healing Academy for trauma healing. I have Soulful Self Love. I have Boundaries. I have Relationship Mirrors. So I have programs as well. And in those, it's like this, but on steroids, because there are a lot of trainings. Okay. So private coaching, Worthy membership, or programs. If you want any of that, you can reach out to me, Self Carved, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, and you can also email me. But the best way is to just shoot me a quick DM. Okay. And I'll give you all the information that you want. So, once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today. I hope you feel that the time spent with me here was valuable and that you feel like this is going to make a positive impact on your life. All right, you take care and continue shining. Sending so much love.